Welcome to Conflict Wise. Conflict is often seen as a problem that's best avoided or resolved. But what if conflict is really a hidden opportunity?
A hidden opportunity for change that is lost if we rush to release the tension it brings. Not only the tension between us, but also the tension within.
Yes, in Conflict Wise, we tackle typical situations and share practical ways to use conflict for change.
Topic for today is your apology sucks. We usually think of apologies as being a good thing. And when they are, that's fantastic. But the truth is, sometimes they are highly effective. Other times they're simply adequate. And there are other times when they actually are insultingly injurious. So apologies are a muddy business at the best of times.
Yeah, they're muddy because the whole idea behind an apology is that it would lead to some kind of change or in the relationship. And if that goes wrong, if the apology sucks, you can end up taking a step backwards rather than a step forwards in your relationship. So that's why Vi and I thought it'd be good to just go through and give you a couple of examples where apologies do suck, explain why, and then look at how we remedy that. What are some of the options for not having that particular way of approaching an apology?
So, when you think about it, we have such an aversion to difficult conversations that sometimes we apologize just to get the other person off our back, just to get out of the uncomfortable situation. And though that's understandable, the problem is that we've then made a tactical maneuver of a matter of the heart, because the only way that change will ever come by is if you actually allow yourself to feel it in the heart.
And so, Vi, yeah, it's so important, right? Because if we don't do that, you can actually almost make a mockery out of an apology situation, right? And that's what we don't want. What you don't want. That's the kind of impact that you don't want when you're apologizing.
I think another one that we sometimes do is we become self-righteous around apologies. The number of times that I've heard a person say, "I always apologize, you don't." Well, the translation really is, "I'm better than you are."
Yeah, and it's so true, because if that message comes over to the other that I'm better than, then the apology is going to start off on the wrong foot anyway. So that really is quite important.
Well, John, you know what? I think it's also asking that deeper question of why. Why are you really apologizing?
Yeah.
Because
if you can ask that, Eva, it takes you to the heart of the matter, right? It actually gets you to that level, which is important in an apology. Because you'd pick up, if you were apologizing to me, and I knew you, I'd pick up whether it's coming from your heart or not. I would in that communication.
Yeah. I think another thing, if you're thinking about where apologies go wrong or what makes them suck, is that we aren't specific enough when we say something. So we might say, "I'm sorry," and that's the end of the story without actually saying what we're sorry about. Or we might do something like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all of that." But now what you've done is you've actually thrown a meaningless blanket over everything. You've acknowledged nothing. And so where have you come to? It's almost like a double hurt.
Really is, right? So when I'm specific about the impact I've had on you, then you'll understand, John, you actually got it, right? You understand the impact of your behavior on me. So that's specificity is really important in an apology.
And I think sometimes the apologies miss the mark because they go for the surface thing without hitting the deeper level of hurt. So maybe you apologize for shouting or for, some miserable name you called a person. But what you haven't really acknowledged is the deeper hurt, which is the betrayal or the slandering that you did behind their back or taking credit for something. And it's like an ongoing pattern that now is just kind of broke the camel's back.
Yeah, and so an apology, when it's an ongoing pattern like that, which only deals with the specific, so that you can actually have something quite specific you're apologizing for, but because that is missing the pattern over a period of time or the deeper impact of it, by being specific doesn't solve my problem. I've got to actually go to the deeper piece of how that's affecting you. So if I apologize for something and then it continues in some form, that pattern can actually be quite destructive to the other person. So going back and actually acknowledging it's not just the specific behavior, but this has been a pattern of mine over a period of time will make that difference.
Sometimes I think apologies can be slippery because in what we do is we say, I'm sorry that you felt hurt. Like if you just listen to that, I'm sorry that you felt hurt. Like you're not connecting what happened to what you did. The other person is just like, well, it's kind of like it leaves it as their problem.
Totally right. That I hear so often, right, where I'm apologizing for how you feel, and rather than the impact of my behavior on your emotion, your feeling.
Yeah.
And that connection in an apology, where I'm acknowledging that connection between what I'm doing and the impact on you, is important.
Yeah. Then there's the one that we all know so well, which is I'm sorry, but. And it's a confusing one, I think, because it could be that you are actually blaming the other or refusing to take responsibility for your thing. Or the other thing is when you're saying I'm sorry, but. Now think about the fact that an apology is a matter of the heart. It's not a tactical maneuver. How does a person get to the place where their heart actually feels the impact, feels some remorse and wants to say sorry? Well, sometimes you feel like you need to also add some more information, something that's missing, so the other person will see more. So maybe the but is kind of like a messy step in getting to the heart. It's an ugly part of the process.
And in fact, it actually makes the point that apologies are messy, right? I mean, the reality is they're not. Although we're not trying to create the impression here in these few weeks discussing that this is a smooth. You got to get it all right. There's some things that'll help you, but it is messy, and it's a great example. This one where the but, because in the but it looks like I'm about to excuse myself, right? I apologize, but in fact it's also my struggle, right? And so that's where, if the other person has a little bit of grace to give me that part of the struggle. And in fact, this is often it's a small step at a time, right? That we change things in a relationship. So yeah, the but one is a really interesting one.
Another place where apologies gets muddy is around intent and impact. So when person will often respond by saying it wasn't my intention. Well, why it gets muddy is because maybe it actually honestly wasn't your intention. But then there's the other part about, as humans, how easily we are deceived. And we don't always know our own intention. Sometimes the other person picks up the message that we didn't intend to send. And that's what makes it messy. But on the other hand, it is good to sometimes say what your intention was, because the person you may have triggered them in a really sensitive area, and you didn't intend to hurt them, but their whole past came rushing forward.
And that so if you think about if I'm on the receiving end of an apology, right, you're so right, Vi, that I do want to know not only just the impact, but did you intend to hurt me? Did you intend to do that? So it is important. But if it's used as a way out, then it's a problem. I mean, one of the areas that is difficult in just this whole intent and impact around apology, and we're not going to go into any detail right now, but just when there's a power differential, when there's a difference in power or authority of another one. So workplace is a good example where if a supervisor does something that impacts and it can be interpreted as a form of harassment, it impacts the other person negatively, then in fact the intent is less important than the impact. So if you look at workplace harassment and all those important things, where that happens, it's the impact that makes that where the focus will be. So I might have not intended to hurt you, Brian, but if I had authority over you in the workplace and you were accountable to me, then in fact in some ways, it doesn't matter about my intent. I need to be concerned about my impact. And that's why you'll see respectful workplace policies have that in place. It's the impact that counts.
So, you know, here's the most important thing, and I hope this is what you walk away with, because apologies are always a matter of the heart. If an apology sucks, it's because it doesn't lead to a change in behavior. And this is where apologies actually become insultingly injurious. Let's say you say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, but no change in behavior follows. Because what's happened is the other person has hope that things could be different. And now, instead, if no change in behavior follows, what they are left with is a sense of disillusionment and hopelessness. So, I mean, that's what you don't want to do. But I know it's a tough thing, right? Because it's about allowing yourself to feel the impact of the other. Like, how did you impact the other? Seeing what you actually did. Do you feel remorse? And is it enough remorse to fuel you or to propel you to do differently going forward?
So it's so important what you're saying, Vi, because an apology implies in it an intent to change. And in that intent to change, if it doesn't happen, then in fact, as you're saying, Vi, it does at least two things, and maybe some others as well. But one, it undermines the value of the apology that you've given. Mm-hmm. Two, the next time I apologize, you'll be wondering, well, John, are you just going to repeat it again, right? And so it devalues the past apology, and it devalues the next one coming up too.
And I think it also results in contempt, because you see that person doing the same thing over again. You go, like, you and the respect just plummets. You can't have respect because the words are meaningless. Okay, but there's good news with apologies too.
Right.
Because one of the things is, if you can actually feel it in your heart and take action on that, then you can be wrong and be loved at the same time. That's a potent concoction.
and it's a critical concoction to any relationship, that in fact I need to be myself, and I'm going to make mistakes in any relationship, but I have the possibility then of learning from them. But also in it comes grace, because if I'm prepared to apologize for things that I would do that impact you in a negative way, whether I intended it or not, and that, as we've said, that can be part of the conversation, that makes the difference. And it kind of, in a way, frees me and frees us to be real in our relationships.
And in decades of doing this work, I am just amazed at people's ability to forgive if they get a genuine apology.
So true. I'm John Radford, and together with Viola Neufeld, I'd like to thank you for being part of our quest to help people use their conflict for constructive change. If you found this video useful, please subscribe to our ConflictWise channel and share your opinion in the comments section, and tell us what you think about Your Apology Sucks. Thank you.